Hey everyone, this is Zypher here. Welcome back, or welcome to my channel. So we are back with another video talking about the Stranger Things chapter upcoming. Now, guys, we received 2 or technically 3 new leaks regarding the new chapter, which is kind of crazy. One from a few days ago now, and another of which came out about an hour ago as I am recording this right now. So for the first one, the devs put out a post on December 17th, which is captioned, "Your time is running out, Stranger Things Chapter 2, January 2026, and they gave us an image of Vecna's clock here, as you can see. Now, I don't know if this clock was just put here just to sort of symbolize time running out for the countdown to the chapter, or if this is actually a in-game asset which they've put here on this image, telling us that we will in fact be getting the clocks as part of Vecna's ability. So obviously this has left us to theorize once again. If you haven't seen the first Stranger Things Chapter 2 video I made, be sure to go check that out. I'd really appreciate it. But in that video, I did discuss the possibility that maybe the clocks would be implemented, and I feel like that would be appropriate because it is majorly prevalent in the deaths of all of the people that are cursed by Vecna. And so I think the clocks will be obviously implemented in some regard. I think that's pretty much guaranteed at this point, but whether they'll just be an object there in the background, you know, chiming out to the affected survivor, or if it will have more of a use, I really don't know. I mean, obviously we can't say yet because it hasn't dropped, but what I think will either happen is if they do go with this whole mind layer realm and they actually want to implement Vecna's realm as a place that survivors could be transported to who are cursed by him, I think it would be really cool if the clocks just sort of stand there as a prop and they chime out because it signifies that after a certain amount of time they're gonna die or something. But it's also likely that they could do something really weird where these get turned into like a teleportation thing. Now hear me out, I don't think this is very likely. This is just complete spitballing right here. I'm just throwing shit at the wall and hoping something sticks, to be honest, but it could be that the clocks have some kind of interaction element to them where on the map maybe the killer can teleport to them. I don't feel like that would end up happening, but it would be kind of funky if Vecna could just like open up the grandfather clocks and walk out of them. Maybe the clocks will have some kind of interaction element where at them you can access a headset and some music and you can basically put it on and play it to try and reduce your curse meter or whatever. So if that survivor's got a curse placed on them by the killer, they can go to one of these places on the map, a bit like the bear traps or the alarm clocks for Freddy. Just one of those places you can go to, and maybe, I don't know why they'd put music at these, to be honest, because they never did that in the show, but it would be kind of interesting if at the clocks they have a table and on the table there is like a music set that you could then place on yourself, or maybe even another survivor, and play music to try and remove the curse, I guess. That would be really interesting. But yeah, that's really all I can go off of for this because there isn't a whole lot else that I feel like they could do with the clocks. I don't think they would have much more use really in the game other than for one of those purposes. Again, it'll either be interactable or an interactable place where the clocks are just accompanied by some other thing, or they'll just be a random background prop there for a fact. I guess we'll find out obviously in a very short amount of time because it's not long until this chapter drops. But yeah, it's really cool to see them actually officially post something else since the teaser that does maybe give us a bit of an insight into what part of the power could be, or maybe that these clocks may actually be relevant in some way, shape or form. Do let me know what you guys think they'll do with the clocks down in the comments. Now for the more recent one we got, now this is where it gets definitely very interesting, and it completely switches up the idea I had as for who the 2 new survivors were going to be. Obviously in my last video I predicted that it would be Joyce and Hopper, or maybe 11 or something, and I was starting to think that maybe the prediction for 11 or Mike or 11 and Will would have been a bit of a stretch and most likely not end up happening. But I have reason on the contrary now to believe that I could actually be onto something here, and it could be very much the case that we will be getting 2 of the kids from the main group as our survivors. So we got this post basically from the devs which says, "Always come prepared with a plan, January 2026." And it has this image here which has a pair of yellow gloves, a photo in the middle which has Dustin's cap on it which says thinking cap. We have a broken flashlight, and then we have a walkie-talkie, and then you can see in the background there are 2 like Polaroid images. And so what I'm thinking here is, because clearly from the gloves, the walkie-talkie, the thinking cap in the middle of the image, I'm thinking it's very likely that one of our main new survivors is going to be Dustin, which is definitely an interesting interesting decision. I wouldn't have thought that they would have gone with him for one of them. Now, it's very likely that this could just be a fluke. They could just be putting this out there to get people speculating again, to maybe trick people, make people think that that's who we're getting, and then they completely do a 180. Who really knows? But it seems like from this image that it's suggesting that our first survivor is going to be Dustin. But there were some people in the comments on X who had been zooming into the background, and as you can see from one of those Polaroid images, it looks to have Will on it. So a lot of people were also saying, well, no, it's going to be Will, it's not going to be Dustin. But I don't think they would put so much in the forefront and center of the image alluding to Dustin if it was actually going to be Will. I think if anything, and this could be a bit of a stretch, but my prediction is that if it is going to be either of these survivors, I think it's going to be Dustin, and with that being potentially Will in the background, maybe it's suggesting that he's going to be secondary, so not a main character, but a legendary skin for Dustin. That's what makes the most sense to me. Now, there was technically a third image that went around, and I'm surprised I haven't heard more people talking about this. It's actually kind of crazy, but this second post from the devs was actually reposted by an account called DBD Intel, who basically like to reshare and put out any information regarding leaks. And as a reply under their post, there was actually another person who claims to have seen a, I guess, accidental post from the Dead by Daylight China account. Now, I tried to look up DBD CN or Dead by Daylight CN on X, and I couldn't find anything. So I don't know if this is just from a different page of theirs, maybe an account that they have on a Chinese app or something. I'm not too sure. But there's this other image that apparently came out, which looks like this, and it's got a Ego in the forefront of the image. We have this other little Polaroid just next to it, which I don't know what that is. It could be a claw machine. I'm not really too sure. And then just to the right of that, you can see that there's like a hair bubble or a bracelet, which looks to be like the one that 11 wears. Now, obviously, the waffle in the forefront of the image should be pretty obvious that this is alluding to 11, which, yeah, I would never have thought of Dustin and 11 as the two new survivors, but it's looking like that could very much be the case from these two images. Again, they could have just posted those just to get people's hype up or just to get people talking about it, and then it could just be Joyce and Hopper or something else, but I don't see why they would lie about that. I don't know, it just seems a little bit pointless in my opinion. But yeah, I just thought I would share those with you guys as well. These are actually very recent. I initially set out recording this video just to talk about the first Grandfather Clock post that they dropped, and then I ended up seeing these on my timeline and thinking, oh shit, I need to add those in. So there's actually a bit more purpose to this video now, I suppose. So yeah, let me know in the comments what you guys think of these teasers. Are you excited for these being the two potential picks for the survivors, or are you disappointed? Do you wish it was a different selection of characters? I'd love to know. Now, just to sort of go off of some things I discussed last video that I kind of want to reevaluate. To start off with, for the map, I wasn't actually aware at the time, but we did actually get a roadmap where year 10, or in other words, this year, back when this chapter was initially set to drop, I think in November, it did say on there that we were only getting a killer, 2 survivors, and no map. Obviously, then they pushed on the chapter's release to January. Whether that's because they wanted more time to work on the game and fix things, I'm not too sure. Or maybe it's because they wanted it to be more in time with the end of season 5 for other reasons, which I will get to in a sec. But regardless, they pushed that on, but that was the initial release time for this chapter, and that tells us that we will not, in fact, be getting a map, which is really sad because I think there was a lot of potential they could have done. I got a lot of comments off of you guys. A lot of you either thought the same as me, or you were giving completely different ideas, like the Starcourt Mall, for example. There's a lot of things they could have done with a map, potentially, but to see that we won't be getting one is kind of sad, to be honest, because we didn't get one with the Creusot. The last one we got was with the Walking Dead chapter, which it was a very disappointing map, I have to say. It looks like they just did the bare minimum with it, and instead of doing a full-on map, they just kind of made an addition to an already existing realm by just switching the color filter and adding a very sad excuse for a main building. It was very underwhelming, so it's been a while since we've had a proper cool-looking new map, and I feel like that would have been a great opportunity with this chapter, but unfortunately, we won't be getting that, and I didn't know that as of making the first video, so I just wanted to clarify that in this video, because I am still going to get comments, obviously, on the other video. Not everyone is going to come and watch this video or necessarily come from this video to the other video, so I will still have to, you know, inform people about that. But for anybody that does decide to watch this from the last video, or just happens to find this and this is your first video watching my channel, we won't be getting a military base or the Starcourt Mall or Henry Creel's house or anything like that. So yeah, massive missed opportunity. And another thing that I wanted to talk about is going off of the characters. What I didn't actually think about when I was making that video is about about the odds of them adding Eddie to the game, because I was thinking at the time, well, how can they add him? He's dead. It doesn't make any sense. But then after I made that video, I did look into it a bit more, and they have added other characters to the game who literally died upon being transferred to the realm, to the entity's realm, or they were already dead in their respective properties, whether that be the game or film that they came from, but they still got added to the game. And so they were kind of added under this sort of excuse that upon dying, they were sort of resurrected into the entity's realm, or they were taken just before death. And so if that's possible for other characters, it's definitely possible for them to add Eddie to the game. So it is possible that they could add him as a survivor, but do I think they'll do that? Probably not, because as you could see from the teaser, like I mentioned in the previous video, it seems that they're going off of the season 5 design for Vecna. So I think it's safe to assume that if it's going off of season 5, Eddie's not going to be a survivor because he wasn't around in season 5. And so if they are going to add him in any capacity, it's going to be a legendary. And there is definitely a lot of skin potential or cosmetic potential for the characters and even the older characters in the game, because there's so many outfits that they've missed. I did have a whole comment with one guy in particular where I mentioned a range of different skins that they could even just add for Nancy and Steve. As to how many of those will end up being added, I don't really know. You can pause if you want to read it. There's so many skins that they could add just for the original chapter characters, but even with the new ones, there's so many legendaries, outfits, just so much potential. A thing that I didn't really think about as well when recording the initial video is that the kids that initially couldn't have been added back when the first chapter came out in 2019 because they were too young, they are actually a possibility now, because most of those kids now in the main cast, you know, 11, Mike, Will, Dustin, Lucas, Max, they're all actually around 16, 17 now, I think, and they do have other characters in the game who are predicted or assumed to be around 17 from the properties that they came from. Like, for example, Laurie Strode, she is said to be around 17 when she was added to the game based on her age in the Halloween film that she was taken from. And same for Quentin Smith, he was around 17. And I think Cheryl is also 17, but some people have said that she could be 18. With that being said, that does open the door for them to add these main group of kids from Stranger Things, because they're now all around 17. And even if they wanted to add a bit of more leeway so that they have to be adults, so that there isn't this whole child abuse kind of thing that the devs seem to have, where they think certain characters are off bounds due to their age, they could just make up some shit that, you know, like a couple months or a year after the events of season 5, that these survivors were taken into the fog. They could do anything. They could do that, or they could just take them right now. And I know the devs would love to bank off of that, because, you know, the more microtransactions, the more money they make. So I don't think they would argue with that, to be honest. But we could pretty much get the majority of the main Stranger Things cast in the game, which is kind of crazy, which wouldn't have been possible in the past. Oh, and one more thing, which I think is really important, is the name of the killer, because I was initially going with something like the Mind Flayer. Now, with the Mind Flayer name, I've completely dropped it, because since having discussions with you guys, I have actually done more research on it, and I've realized, oh yeah, it wouldn't actually make any sense, because obviously they do lead you to believe in the show that Vecna is like tied in with the Mind Flayer and that it's basically created by him. But I think that that is either done intentionally to cause speculation amongst the community before the 5th season dropped, or it was just to sort of give us a perspective of Vecna where it's maybe potentially skewed and it's coming from his own view of events, where there's actually a bias or a illusion element to it. And I think that's definitely possible, because a lot of people seem to think that, well, obviously the Mind Flayer is its separate thing. I think we've already established that. I did know that when I made the first video. I wasn't completely oblivious to that, obviously, but I think I got too caught up on the whole explanation that Vecna gave in season 4 at the end, where he was telling 11 about how he basically discovered this other realm, which now the fans are calling Dimension X, and he basically shaped and gave purpose to the Mind Flayer, and that he basically was everything from the start. It was all him, right? But I think actually that this could very well be incorrect, and that he's wrong, and that maybe he was actually in fact tricked into a false sense of security or power that he doesn't actually really have. I mean, as far as we know, he's just like the leader of the fleet or the army. He just kind of taps into the Mind Flayer's psychic abilities, and he can use its hive mind to locate people and to control the monsters inside of the Upside Down. But he isn't the actual main threat, nor is he in full control. And I think that is important to mention, because obviously the Mind Flayer does predate Vecna. It just didn't really have a shape or any sort of real purpose to it. It just kind of was there, and he, you know, made it look more like the shape of a spider, and he gave it this new realm that it could then have control over. But it obviously isn't him. It is a separate entity, and so the name that I was predicting at the time would no longer make sense after reevaluating. It would would be really goofy if they called him the Mind Flayer now. At the time, I thought that would be really cool, and even though it would still sound kind of hard as a name, it wouldn't make sense. So I don't think they'll call him the Flayer. I don't think they'll call him the Mind Flayer. If anything, they'll call him the Flayed at the very least. If they're going to go with that concept, that's probably the closest they could get to it, because he technically is flayed. He's like being controlled by the Mind Flayer, maybe without realizing it. So I think a more appropriate name would be the First, which a lot of people mentioned. I did see this at the time, but I wasn't too sure about it. But as long as they don't go with the One, which I think is a little bit too on the nose and kind of cheesy, to be honest, the First would work really well. And one of the commenters actually gave to me, I didn't even think about this, but the Overmind. So shout outs to this guy here, because I didn't even know that term really existed. I had to look it up, and apparently it is a very specific name that refers to the leader of a hive mind, which is basically what Vecna does in the show. So I think this name would actually be very fitting for him. The name The General has really grown on me. I think The General would really go well because he does get referred to as the 5-star general by Dustin in the show. So one of those three names, in my opinion, or maybe even the Flayed, like I say, that is possible too. But I think the Overmind, the First, or the General are the ones that I'm going with now. Those are like the ones that I think are the most likely. Oh yeah, something I forgot to say whilst I was initially recording is that I think that it's very likely that they are pushing this chapter onto January, obviously because it would be in time with the end of season 5. But I've seen a few of you mention this, and I think it is likely that there could be some kind of spoiler maybe around the killer's name or parts of his ability or just identity in general. It could be even written into the bio of the character, but there could be more to Vecna than we know. And I think there was like an interview apparently where Noah Schnapp mentioned that Vecna is like one of the most misunderstood villains. So I think that with season 5 wrapping, it could be that we learn a lot more about Vecna, and that in fact he isn't really what we think he is. He could be actually under the Mind Flayer's control. There could be elements to him that are introduced, things we haven't seen yet that Vecna can do, or there are things that could give way to potential names for him that we haven't yet thought of. And so maybe that's another reason why, besides the bugs and all the other things that they wanted to address before dropping the chapter, maybe that's another reason why they postponed the chapter. Who knows? We'll obviously have to wait and see. Again, you guys are free to continue speculating and dropping your name predictions in the comments. I love reading them all. But yeah, let's just keep the discussion going until the PTB drops, because it's a lot of fun just talking with you guys about all the different things that could come with this chapter. Again, still not entirely sure what his power is going to be, but I do think something to do with another realm or cursing specific survivors and having maybe the music element to combat that curse meter would be really interesting to see. Honestly, it's going to be really cool to see where they go with this, but I do want to quickly say thank you for all the support and engagement that I got on my last video. You guys are awesome. I was kind of expecting it to, you know, do well, at least. Like, I knew it was going to reach people and it would probably get a decent amount of views and likes, but I was not expecting the amount of comments that I got. Like, you guys really started a discussion down there, and I got really, you know, into it, just like talking to you guys about all the different theories and stuff, and I really enjoyed it. So thank you, everybody. I would love to see that more often on more videos, because I do genuinely enjoy conversating with you guys. But yeah, if you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to smash the like button down below to let me know. Really helps the video out in the algorithm. Also, hit the hype button next to it. That really helps push smaller creators like me out to more people. So if you could do that, I would really appreciate it. And if you want to see more videos from me, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and turn on post notifications next to it so you never miss a single video of mine. Thank you all so much for watching. Merry Christmas to you all, and I shall catch you all very soon with a brand new video. Goodbye.